Hello there. As you know, I'm an avid player of Train Sim World, but the quality of the routes can differ greatly between either be it made by Dovetail Games, Just Trains, or even Rivet Games. So, this video is going to help you if you want to buy Train Sim World, or you're just starting out with Train Sim World, or you're a veteran player like me and wants to know which routes to get and so on and so forth. This video is my ratings on Train Sim World routes. So, as I've got my notes on my computer, and the ratings go as follows: 1. Outstanding. 2. Decent. 3. Okay. 4. Mediocre. 5. Rubbish. And the last two are saved for two certain routes, which you'll probably figure out. 6. Absolute bollocks. And 7. A complete joke. They're all going to be in order of when they were originally released. So, like, Sandpatch Grade will be the original release, Southeastern High Speed, and it will be the original release. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Sandpatch Grade. It's okay. I'm not really interested in that route because I'm not into heavy American style freight. So, yeah. Great Western Express. It's mediocre, as unfortunately it has not stood the test of time, being the oldest UK add-on on Train Sim World, and it probably should have been done a bit later when the electrification was complete with the IATs and Class 387s, but the Class 43 is nice. Rapid Transit, again, mediocre. It's a good service variation, and the Leipzig City Tunnel is pretty good, but the 1442 sounds are a bit shit, and it should have been updated with the newer Talent 2 sounds from Köln to Aachen, so, right. West Somerset Railway is actually decent, bordering excellent in light of its recent update and new Steam timetable. Although it would have been better if they added like a GWR steam locomotive like the Manor class or the 5700 class, which would have sweetened the thing a bit more. But that would be excellent, but it's very nice and relaxing to drive on with only going at 25 miles an hour. Right. Russig Nord, decent. It is more freight oriented. It is more freight oriented, but with some nice forest-like scenery. And also, there's an interesting service between Hagen and Iserlohn with one Doppelstockwagen and the BR143, which, if you don't know, then check it out. So, Long Island Railroad, I can't really rate it because I don't have it, but the original version seemed to be a bit of a letdown from what I heard. There is an update coming which is set to improve the timetable, but as of the making of this video, I don't know. I mean, I don't have all the TSW routes. I have all British routes, majority of German routes, and some US routes. So, the routes that I don't have, I'm rating it off hearsay and reviews from other people. So, right. Northern Transpennine is decent. A very retro BR Blue route, which is actually not that far from where I live in real life, but the lack of NPCs at stations is a bit of a letdown. But I really like the Class 45, especially, also the 47 and 101, also the Class 40 and 108 that comes with their heavy freight pack. It's also challenging. It's also a bit of a challenging experience to drive without the high intensity headlights, as locomotives were only just starting to be retrofitted them around 1983, which is when the route was set. Main-Spessartbahn, decent. I'd say it's alright, a good challenging route with the incline, although that has now been replaced by the tunnel. Also, as well as a good rolling stock choice with the 185.2 and of course the 146 with the Doppelstockwagen coaches. Tees Valley Line, again, decent. It's another classic throw track to the sectorisation of British Rail with the Class 37 this time, as well as the Class 31 and the 20 with the DLCs. Also, it's worth noting that I also spent a part of my childhood in Eaglescliffe, as at the time we moved there for Dad's job. And my first railway memory was, of course, on the Tees Valley line, but it was a Pacer. Speaking of, I also heard that there was announcements for the Pacer from the Blackpool branches on the Tees Valley line stations, but whether that'll be a future update for the Tees Valley, I don't know at present. So, Peninsula Corridor. It's decent, although it is let down by the scenery, especially around South San Francisco. A busy timetable, although you need to purchase the MP38PH and the MP15DC to get the full scene. Because of Dovetail's Festival of Rail sale in February, I actually got the route for free and the MP36PH and the MP15DC for under a tenner, which is a very good value for money. I only spent like under a tenner for that whole thing, and so yeah. Oakville's subdivision, mediocre. It's a bit of a letdown for being so far the only Canadian route in TSW. For one, there are no passenger service, and the horn and bell sounds are reused from trains with a Z. It's also worth noting that in Thomas the Tank Engine, the horn is used for Mavis from season 15 onwards. Rhein-Ruhr-Osten, it's okay, but I don't have the route and I'm not super interested in getting it. But the Wuppertal-Schwebebahn is a bit of a letdown and the scenery is not all that good. From what I gather, however, it is propped up by the timetable and the S-Bahn services. But again, not that super interested in the route. East Coastway, decent. Actually, I find it fairly peaceful for a third rail commuter route, especially the section between Lewis and Polegate, where you get the lovely South Downs. Also, the inclusion of the Seaford branch and later the Class 313 DLC makes for a varied rail scene, plus short trains between New Haven and Lewis. Of course, on the East Coastway, the 377 sounds are not as good as the Armstrong Powerhouse on the Brighton Main Line or the 375 on Southeastern High Speed, but for some reason I think it adds to the peacefulness of the route, really. I don't know why, but Hauptstrecke Rhein-Ruhr, decent. Good timetable, good service variation with 2 branches between Essen and Bochum, S-Bahn services, but the NPCs, they do tend to bugger off from the trains. Schnellfahrtstrecke Köln-Aachen. It's okay as of present, as it was alright as the base route on Train Sim World 2, but without layers it can be a bit dull, and the aforementioned problem of the NPCs tending to bugger off. Although there is a timetable update coming, which may push it to either decent or outstanding, which we're yet to see. Bakerloo line is okay. I'm not super interested into that route, but if you're into like the London Underground, then this one is for you. It does have some very well modelled stations, in my opinion. Island Line, the original one, I'm afraid this is the first one that is rubbish, despite the fact that it is quirky with the old 1938 stock or Class 483. Rivet did an interesting choice for the route, but it is spoilt a bit by all the bugs and poor scenery and all that. The 2022 version, which I'll get onto later, is better. Hauptstrecke München-Augsburg. Mediocre. Without layers, it can be rather bland with just the ICE3 and the 423 and no other trains serving between Mammendorf and Augsburg. But really, it can be rather weak and has some basic scenery issues. LGV Méditerranée. Mediocre. It really should have gone to Lyon, not just Avignon. The scenery is a bit underwhelming. It's nice to have the TGV, but to sum it all up, malheureusement, c'est un peu de déception. Southeastern High Speed. Outstanding! Very good service with variation on High Speed 1 and the commuter trains. Even better with the extended version that came with Train Sim World 3 to Ashford and Dartford. Southeastern and Thameslink services are represented, the latter with the Class 700 DLC. The Arosa Linea, rubbish. I don't have this one, but I heard that the scenery is not very good and the physics aren't great either. Good concept, but Rivet didn't do a very good job on it. Clinchfield Railroad, I can't really rate because I don't have it, but it does have the classic American diesel traction like the F units, and also it's set in the 1970s, so it's a bit of a time capsule. Hauptstrecke Hamburg-Lübeck. It's okay, it's bog standard. Scenery is a bit unremarkable, but it would have been a bit more interesting if the Hamburg S-Bahn units were included. Cathcart Circle. Outstanding. Very non-linear, classic traction, and quite a bit of service variation. My only issue is with the livery, as not all 314s were painted in the ScotRail livery, and I do prefer to drive with the Strathclyde, Carmine and Cream livery from the Creators Club. Plus, Glasgow Central is a bit quiet, but other than that, it is outstanding. Cane Creek. Can't really say I don't have, but I guess it's okay for those who like American-style freight. Boston Sprinter is okay, bordering decent. Good service variation with Amtrak and MBTA with the branch line as well, but the MBTA rolling stock choice is a bit odd. Should have added a bit more. Amtrak services are also boosted with the addition of the Acela Express. Nahverkehr Dresden. Outstanding. Good service variation and a very busy timetable with the S-Bahn services included. Regional services as well with the express services if you got the ICE 3 and the BR101. The branches add a lot of diversity among the route, and it's also surprisingly included with the base TSW4 Deluxe Edition with the Siemens Vectron. London Commuter, again, outstanding. A very busy timetable, lots of service variation, but for it to be even better, I highly recommend you get these mods. Get the Class 700 mod from trainsim.cz, and also the scenery enhancement pack, but it is still good as it is. West Cornwall Local, mediocre. The 150 is nice, and so is the concept, as well as the Sinai's branch line. It wasn't done that well, and it was also made by Rivets, but I do kind of enjoy it from time to time, but it's really not that great. Sherman Hill. I don't have it again, but the same as I said with Cane Creek applies here. Taranta Rampa. Decent. A very good concept with the tilting BR612. For me, it seems to be like a German version of Sandpatch Grade, especially where freight is concerned. But for the 612, a better choice, in my opinion, it's just my opinion, would be Nuremberg to Bayreuth, as that is unelectrified and you're not running diesels under the wires. But I won't complain. On a side note, the direct service between Dresden and Nuremberg doesn't run as of now, but it does when the route is set. Harlem Line, I don't have it, but I'm kind of debating on whether to get it. But I will rate it decent for its busy timetable. I think it is good. S-Bahn Zentralschweiz. Rubbish. It is too short, full of bugs for one. I don't have it and I don't intend to get it for how rubbish it is. Shame really, as the Stadler Flirt looks good. Horseshoe Curve. I don't have it, but the same applies with Cane Creek and Sherman Hill. Spirit of Steam. Okay. It is well modelled for being a time capsule between the electrification of the West Coast main line, and nice to see the old stations like Runcorn before they were rebuilt with the crappy brutalist style of the 1960s. But we really need more motive power, like the Black 5, Royal Scot, and shunting engines like the LMS Ginty. It was a bit of a letdown. Island Line 2022. It's outstanding, a rare example of Rivet Games route with good scenery and good quality overall. The livery, yes, I know, but one can go to the Creators Club for the actual livery. The 484 is interesting, having been converted from ex-tube stock, specifically the D78 stock of 1980. Schnellfahrstrecke Castle Würzburg. Being the longest route on TSW is one thing, but it can be a bit of a drag when the trains are usually driving themselves with the LZB and you're only acknowledging the ZFA. It should have really gone to Göttingen to make things a bit more interesting at IMO. Cajon Pass. I actually don't have this one because I purchased the Birmingham starter pack for TSW3, but I guess the same thing I said about the previous 3 American freight routes applies here. Birmingham Cross City. Decent. A good selection of services to choose from and the branches between Bromsgrove and Redditch, the famous Lickey Incline 2, as well as the famous Class 323 with its distinctive motor sounds. Bahnstrecke Bremen-Oldenburg. I don't have this, and I'm not really interested in getting it, but I guess I'll give it an okay for the concept and using the older forms of rolling stock like the BR1110 but I feel like the BR1110.3, the Bügelfalter and the Endwagen coaches are more at home on the Linker Rheinstrecke route. Holiday Express. An absolute joke. Don't get it. I don't have it. I won't be getting it. Just a joke. Don't get it. End of. ScotRail Express. Mediocre. It could have been done a lot better, really. I like the 385 for the most part as it is modern, but there are some basic issues that Rivet didn't address. Also, the stations between Alloa and Dunblane need to be acknowledged too for the PIS, and the announcements. Also, when the 5-circle route comes out, they should really layer in the Class 170 and the 158 to make the rail scene a bit more lively. NEC New York to Trenton, absolute bollocks. I'm not touching this route with a barge pole. It was clearly rushed, full of bugs, and hasn't been fixed. It was presented to us in an unfinished state, and for that, it gets that rating. Shame, really, because I could have had another route to use the Exceller, but alas, no. Linker Rheinstrecke. Decent. A good concept being set in 1997, which was actually the year of my birth. And one of the last, if not the last year of classic German traction dominating the rail scene. The 103 is absolutely amazing, and as I said on Bremen to Oldenburg, the 110 and the Endwagen coaches are more at home on here. The only letdowns are some aspects of the scenery and the castles of the valley not being fully modelled. All we need now, really, is the BR120 to go with this route, just my opinion. Niedertalbahn. Outstanding. A very peaceful German branch line set in 1992, 5 years before the aforementioned Linker Rheinstrecke. I like the pastoral nature of the route and the very well detailed scenery and stations. The 628 is very nice too, being the old green and mint livery, making for a refreshing change from Verkehrsrot. Midland Main Line. In light of the recent scenery upgrade, it is okay, bordering decent, although the lack of the Class 156 and 222 is a bit perplexing though. But in light of that, the 158 is what really stands out on this route, as I really like the 158 myself. It started out not that great, but Skyhook have done a good job in upgrading the route and the scenery. Peak Forest. Decent. It is better than Spirit of Steam for one, and for me, personally, I used to spend family holidays in that part of Derbyshire as a child. Nice to see DGG revive a line that no longer exists today, which I tend to speculate that the electrification of the West Coast Main Line in the 60s sealed the line's fate. Glossop Line. Decent. It's a good idea for those who want to drive the 323, but not having to do the full-length route from Bromsgrove, Redditch to Lichfield or Four Oaks. I found that if you go into free roam and when you change ends at Glossop and Hatfield, you can do an there and back run trip in about 80 minutes. Also, Northern is my local operator on my own line. We really need more Northern stuff. S-Bahn Vorarlberg. rubbish. On the reason that the Talent 1 sounds are completely wrong, and they're not the same as the later Talent 2. A huge letdown for something as significant as the first Austrian route in TSW. East Coast Main Line, mediocre, bordering okay. For one, I think the IET is okay, but it would have been better in my opinion if it had been set in like 1974 or 1975 with the deltics before the 4-character headcodes were abolished, as well as the remodeled Class 37s, 47s, maybe a 31 with the 4-character headcodes in a support role, complete with the newer Mark II coaches and extended to York. But I guess that's where we're at. Antelope Valley. Okay, the scenery is sort of okay, but it can be a bit of a drag doing a full service between Lancaster and Los Angeles over 2 hours. Especially that section where it's like half an hour between the two stations. Blackpool branches. Outstanding! A very well done route by Just Trains, set in 1986 with a Class 142 Pacer and the branches to Blackpool, Bernays and Ormskirk. Of course, I didn't really much like the Pacer when it was in service, but I really like the TSW version on the Blackpool branches. Also with new versions of the Class 47 and the 08 as well as the layers from other add-ons do make it very lively. Maintalbahn. Okay, it's not as good as the Niedertalbahn for one, but it's a decent concept with a unelectrified route. I do like the 642, well, mainly for the design, but it's good that you can drive the 628 on a modern day route in Verkehrsroute, and the 612, although it may be a bit out of place. The scenery is okay, but a bit of a letdown. Again, not as good as the Niedertalbahn, but I still like it to an extent. The last two ones I don't have, so I'm just going with what I think about it. Bernina Linie, can't say, well, I don't have it as I just said, but it does have merit in that it goes into Italy, and it looks to be a bit better than other rivet routes, but it doesn't go all the way to St. Moritz. Bahnstrecke Salzburg-Rosenheim. Again, I'm not super fussed on this one, but it is good that we have the BR111 in game at last, but oddly, the Talent 1 actually comes with the route itself, not layered from Vorarlberg. Again, the wrong sounds do kind of put me off, but that's where we are. So, there you have it. This is all the routes that I've rated in TSW. For the DLCs, I recommend you check this video out here. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you in another video. Bye for now.